All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Val Madsen from the Respite Care Association of Wisconsin, and this is part one of our series of visual support for children and adults. So I'm very excited to be here with you all today. And I'm actually going to stop share for a minute. I think I have the wrong PowerPoint up. So let me quickly pull my updated one up. Okay. All right, there we go. This is part one of our visual support series. Today we'll be talking about visual supports for children and adults. And we'll focus on some disability specific things, but a lot of what we'll talk about really applies to a lot of different populations, including ourselves. Just visual supports, what they are and the benefits of using them. Visual supports and how they can support people with disabilities. Very briefly on the different levels and stages of visuals, and then give you some examples and go through how you can use these different things to support the individuals that you might be working with or that you might be supporting at home. We did last month just a very general visual support general training, and that is located on our YouTube page. So that might be a great resource for you to visit and see to get some background information as well. So visual supports are there to help communicate information. Sometimes it is helpful to make an abstract idea or abstract information more concrete. Oftentimes people say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and you can convey a message much easier if you use visual supports. We use visual supports all the time in everyday life. I have calendars, I use color coding, any street signs, or now in the era of COVID, the spots on the ground or the lines so that you stay 6 feet apart when you go to a store, keeping 2 cart distances between you and someone else. Again, those are all visuals so that you can understand and people can understand what the message is that is being given. Benefits of using visuals, it increases understanding, decreases anxiety if you know what's coming up next. And that's why we went through this is what we're going to be talking about, that we're recording this session, all of those things. It increases independence. If people know what's expected of them, they're able to do it on their own. Can decrease challenging behaviors, increase communication, decrease frustration, and increases flexibility. But just really allows for individuals to be able to function throughout our world, including myself, without my checklist to do, that helps me keep on tasks to get all of my work items done and allows me to work independently. I'm able to give my schedule to my kiddos of what I expect in the morning when they get up and get ready for school. That way they can be independent. They learn how to keep moving on their own. A really wide variety of individuals with disabilities do need more time to process spoken words. Sometimes individuals are able to process spoken words, but then they have a hard time getting their thoughts and then getting the words and communicating them back. So visuals can really help increase the availability of communication for a lot of individuals. Also by adding visuals, the message stays present longer. When we talk, we spit words out, and then often we talk a lot and we talk more and we put more words in and keep giving you more and more and more information. When if I have a processing delay, I might still be trying to figure out what was originally said and still processing that and not following through or listening to all of the other directions afterwards. If you add visual supports, that message is there. So then I can see it. I can go back to it. I can see what the message is and what I need to do. Visual supports can really be very beneficial to a variety of individuals, including individuals with autism, auditory processing disorders, attention deficit disorders, learning disabilities, behavior disorders, cerebral palsy, other physical impairments, developmental or cognitive delays, speech disorders, Down syndrome, hearing impairments, brain injuries, individuals that are bilingual or English as a second language. All of those things, visual supports can be very, very helpful. There are different levels and different stages of visual supports. I go more into this in that intro training, so definitely check that out. But very basic, the bottom or most basic level is actual objects. Individuals that have really hard time with abstract thought often needs the actual object to understand, oh, this is what you're asking me to choose. Individuals with vision impairments might need the actual object in order to be able to make a choice or see what they have. The next stage or the next level up is photos of an actual object or of a person. This is to be very concrete because maybe when I say pretzel, I'm thinking pretzel sticks, but no, it's actually the other pretzel. But again, this matches, oh, this is what I'm asking for. This is what I'm talking about. The next level up is picture symbols and drawings in color. This is a more abstract, harder to grasp concept. My Play-Doh containers might not look like the Play-Doh containers on the picture. So I have to be able to, in my mind, transfer over a symbol to an actual object. So some individuals might not be able to do that for whatever reason. And then the next level is line drawings that are just black and white. Again, these are very abstract. If you took out the words, would you know that the ball and the swing meant recess? Maybe, maybe not. Without having some more information or someone learning or teaching you that that's what that card means. And then the final one is text and just using words. Text is often used with the other levels as well as shown here. So it can be, you can combine different levels of visual supports, but really it's individualized for whatever that individual person needs. What makes the most sense for them? It's not a one thing fits all for all people. It really is, how does that person process information? How does that person intake what the message is? So an example of this is a lot of times right now we talk about emotions and social emotional learning throughout the world, especially in individuals with disabilities. What set of emotions can you connect to? Some people understand the emojis really well because that's a lot of times how people communicate. So they can understand, oh, this means happy. If you're familiar with the movie Inside Out, right, or In and Out, Inside Out, knowing the different characters, they do a really good job in that movie explaining those characters and really showing. But if you've never seen that movie, that might not make sense to you. Having full body language, that might be helpful because especially now in a time of masks where our face is covered, it's really hard to tell some emotions. Other people are really good with the egg-shaped heads and understanding, oh, that's me, that's what sad looks like. Other people need actual pictures, and even a step farther is actual pictures of that individual when they're feeling happy, sad, angry, whatever it might be. So it's figuring out what makes sense for you and being individualized for what you have and what you need. So next we're going to go into specific examples of these different visuals. We are not going through all of them, just to give you some broad categories that I've put them in, and so that we can share some examples and answer any questions. So the first category I'm going to talk about is a choice board. A choice board is a visual tool that allows an individual to select between 2 or more items. So a minimum of 2 items must be available, obviously, and depending on the individual, you can add more items. So some of these things might be asking someone to pick between two activities, or, how are you feeling, and putting feelings out, menus at restaurants. So these are just examples of some choice boards. And I also have some examples here with me that I would like to show you. It might be something where it's a solid board. So this might be for an activity, where we're picking colors of paint. So what colors, and then they can point to what color they want. Or for food, what type of drink do you want? Soda, milk, juice. So again, these are things that you can pick. It's on a single piece of paper, things like that. You might have Velcro and having two options, jump or walk. Do you want to go for a walk? Do you want to jump on the trampoline? You choose. And then this is more manipulative because you can take it off. You can change these up. Maybe it's a choice board with 4 choices. So really figuring out what makes sense for the individual you're working with and what you're trying to accomplish. Oftentimes, you'll see like choice boards that are larger or have more options or have all of the options. This is a good way to store choices as well. So all this is a laminated piece of paper. You can hole punch it and put it in a binder, and then you have all of your options so that you can take things in and out. If this whole board was covered, that might be too much for someone. So then when you do a choice, you might have to break it down and just allow 1 or 2 pictures so that they are able to choose between whatever you're giving them an option for. So just being aware of the people that you're working with or who you're supporting and what makes sense. It could be using a sentence strip, I feel, and then having choices so that they can put what they feel. So, I feel sad, I feel happy, but they can choose from your board of emotions what they feel. The biggest thing with choice boards is the individual has to know what those cards mean, what those visuals mean. Do they have experience with, the egg circled head guy? Do they know that what these feelings mean? If they don't understand this isn't useful. This isn't helpful. So oftentimes you have to kind of start at the beginning and introduce that, oh, this means happy. Or, I worked at Easter Seals Camp Law Week and Respite Camp. We had a rest hour, and this was an option of things that you could do during rest hour. Swing, watch a video, walk. But if you don't know, and the VHS picture is probably outdated now since no one knows what a VHS picture is. But so making sure that this makes sense for the individuals you're working with so that they understand what you are asking, what you are sharing. So that is choice boards. Any questions so far on that? And feel free to unmute yourself, or you can obviously ask any questions in the chat as well. Menus are also an example of a choice board. I don't have any of those printed off, but in the video, and it started back over. Sorry about that. In the slideshow here, it shows, if these were the different choices for a menu or for something to eat. A lot of times restaurants do have visual menus. So that's something you're able to ask for. So if you go to a fast food restaurant, you're able to ask for a visual menu. And then that way the individual can point to what they want and still be independent in ordering. So those are choice boards. The next category is checklists. So with checklists, this would be a visual checklist of activities or tasks, whatever it might be, but it may or may not need to be accomplished in that specific order. So it might be breaking down a task or activities to accomplish in the day. So this would be an example of like a bedtime, you know, it doesn't matter what order these things are done in as long as they get done. Making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. This is more a checklist. You can go through each item and get it and complete that task. So again, checking it off. You know, the to do to done is an example. A couple of examples that I have here. Is for my kiddos, so they're 4th and 6th grade, after school, before they can have screens, they have to have 30 minutes of active time, have all their homework and studying done, and 30 minutes of reading. And then when they're done, they can flip up that item. I don't care what order they get them done in, they just have to do those things before they get screen time. So this is a very simple way to have an item that can be used multiple times. You can also use this and put Velcro in these areas as well, so that you can switch out the items here. So again, depending on the reasoning you're doing this, this is the everyday item. So it's the same items. It's not a switched out picture. It's glued down, and then they know exactly what's expected of them. This might be used as a checklist for washing dishes. So very basic, turn on the water, put soap on the sponge, pick up a dish. But like I was talking before about choice boards, these things, you can't just give this to someone and expect them to run with it. They have to know what those things mean, what those steps mean. Maybe this is too much for someone. Maybe you start with just step 1 and step 2. And that's what you start with. And, you know, and this could be laminated and then you cross those things off when they're accomplished. So maybe it's some visual supports along with some auditory supports. So I'm there with the person, okay, turn on the water, and then I can help cross it off so that they can keep doing their list. So breaking down different tasks are really helpful with checklists, using them to accomplish activities that you have to get done in that day. So those are all things that work really well with checklists. Okay. I'm sorry, I don't know why it goes back to the start. So then the next thing we're going to talk about is schedules. This is really helpful with individuals who are visual thinkers. So you often think about this with individuals with autism, but it's a visual list of of 2 or more items that should be completed in order. So this might be your first then boards, your routines, your daily schedules, calendars, anything like that is really an example of a visual schedule. Using a clock and coloring clocks in is a great way to show a visual schedule. I actually did this with my kiddos as we were, when they were younger, they tended to like to get up at, you know, 4:30 or 5 in the morning and think they were ready for their day. So I used different colors, and when we were in the red zone, you stayed in bed. When you were in the yellow zone, and I colored the hand. So it was looking at the big hand. When the big hand was in the yellow zone, then you could read in your bed. So you can turn on your lamp and read or do a quiet activity. Green zone, you were able to come downstairs. So again, just a visual so that it wasn't always me telling them what they need to do. A lot of times visuals, again, are trying to encourage independence. We want the individuals that we work with or that we support to be as independent as possible, and that's what visuals do. Using first and next or first then, adding different, again, it depends on the individual, how many things you can add to that, or having the visual schedule so they know what's coming up next. So some examples that I have, again, we talked about like the first then card. So first clean up, then eat. So just a very basic, you know, first clean up, then eat. First bathroom, then play. Again, it could be a blank one that is empty, laminated, and then you can change out these pictures. So it's whatever you need that person to do at that point in time. Some individuals, first then is where they're at. The two-step directions, knowing what comes up next is really helpful for individuals that might have some anxiety issues or really struggle with transitions. If I'm really focused and loving what I'm working on right now, I don't necessarily want to go to the next thing, especially if I don't know what that next thing is. So using first then is really helpful. This is a first then next. So again, being able to add another thing. So this would be before a long schedule. So 3-step directions instead of 2-step directions. So just a very basic thing. Kind of the next step then would be just a basic schedule board. And so I made this, they're just squares laminated and put a Velcro tab on it. Often what individuals do, I showed you the laminated sheet that you can put your things on, but file folders are also fantastic. So for one client that I work with, he is at the level where he can use all words. And so this is what I have at my house as my schedule. And then I make his schedule for him. I just pull off the activities, put them on here. I don't give him this because this is too much. And what if he picks activities I don't have with or that I don't want us to work on that day? So I just take the ones out that I need, and this is what I bring with me. I also made one for his mom like this. So then it has all of daily activities. So, get dressed, brush teeth, wash face, eat breakfast, put on pajamas, take medications. And then she taped this to the front. And so then she has access to all of these, but then this is what he sees, and what he has access to is this tape to the front. So just a very handy way to keep your visuals all together and keep them with you. So that is schedules. And again, I apologize because we're actually not, because I don't have any visual examples on the next PowerPoint. No, never mind. We are gonna jump to the PowerPoint again. All right, so then next is behavioral supports. And this is used a lot to help maintain emotional regulation and encourage positive interactions with both the environment and others. So again, knowing what is available for people out there in order to develop some visuals that work for that individual. And a quick word about visuals, especially with behavior supports. They might work for a little bit and then stop working, or it might take a lot of time to get one to work. So it's not something that you give up on. It's something that you just keep working with and working through so that you are able to support that individual. Then sorry, someone is driving past my house, so my dog's gonna bark briefly. So example of visual supports. So this might be something as basic as like a token board. So whatever you're working for. So if you're working for ice cream, or you're working for going to a movie with a friend, or you're working, whatever you're working for, you would put a picture of that here. And then when you succeed, you get whatever that token is. So this would be made for someone that really likes basketball. So this is motivating for someone who likes those skills. This could be used for like potty training or getting ready for bed. So maybe it's used in relationship with a schedule. So if you cross off all of if you make all these done without needing any verbal supports, you get a basketball. You do that 5 nights in a row, then you get whatever you're working for. Some people are opposed to token or reward boards, and that's okay. But it's just an option. It works well for some individuals. But really focusing on the positive and not necessarily taking things away. Something as basic as a punch card. So using a hole puncher each time you meet things. I see this a lot in schools. you know, where they finish a book and they get a hole punched into their card, and as a way to keep them moving and progressing towards whatever object. Some individuals need some social support and needs to know what to do in certain situations. So using whatever is interesting to that individual. So this is using some Minecraft character. When I'm angry, I use the anger rules. Don't hurt others, don't hurt yourself, don't ruin things. So this could be something, instead of me always telling, oh, you're getting angry, please keep your hands to yourself, I could just give this to the person. Maybe the individual keeps this in their pocket and they learn to pull this out when they need some support. Again, it's not me telling them what to do, it's someone else. Here's Elsa, be like Elsa. You know, Elsa wants me to remember to be a good friend by sharing, using nice words, and listening. Again, using what they're interested in to give information. Ways I can calm down, and using, you know, the help. Take deep breaths, talk to an adult, go for a walk. These things would be customized with whatever tools work for that individual. You know, The Rock says, take 5 deep breaths. And so this would be just one direction. So if someone's really angry, using this. Don't just use this when they're angry. A lot of these behavioral visual supports should be introduced when they're in a calm state so that they can learn them and they can understand them. Here's an example of a social story. Having a fire drill at school can be very challenging. So this is just a social story of here's what happens. Social stories, sometimes these would each be separate pages in a book. And so instead of all on one sheet, this is one page, this is page 2, this is page 3. And then you can give this information, foreshadow this information before the fire drill happens so that they know what to expect. Again, using what interests someone. So one individual I work with really likes his bear. So we did a story, Murder Bear Apologizes to Johnny, which is another stuffed animal. So I want to play outside, and he's thinking, no, I want to stay inside. And then Murder Bear is mad at Johnny and he yells at him, and then deep breaths. Deep breaths help me calm down. I'm sorry, I got mad at you. That's okay, let's play together. So this is just a story to help, you know, so maybe in this individual's session, I talked with mom and he was really having a hard time yelling. So using characters that make sense to them and putting it in a comic strip mode. You know, this is a type of a social story. It tells you what to expect and what to do next or what to do in different situations. And then the last thing I'm going to share is communication boards. And we'll hop back to the PowerPoint in 1 minute. And I lost my communication boards. So communication boards are right here. Sorry. Communication boards are ways for individuals to communicate. So far, we've talked a lot about how we're giving directions to individuals. This is a way for they should be able to talk back to us or anytime they need something. So this might be an example of a communication board. You know, I'm in pain, oxygen, trouble breathing, I'm cold. Yes, I don't know, no. So this is for like a specific person or a specific situation. Some communication boards are, I've seen a lot of varieties. Here's one that is just words. And I know it's really hard to see, but it has different sentences or different things that they might like or want. You know, such as, I want to borrow this. Please put it in my bag or wallet, different things like that. Some communication boards are electronic and you can push buttons and it will talk. Others now with iPads are much more portable and can be used by a wide variety of people. So making sure that they're accessible to other people. I've also worked with some individuals that use communication boards that are not as technology savvy, I guess, where it's just an alphabet board that is on a hard wood board. So it's just taped or laminated to a board, and they use that to spell out words. It might be, I had worked with one individual, she had a binder of statements, like hundreds and hundreds of statements. And then she had a clear board that was attached to the front of her wheelchair, and she could look at a combination of numbers, and that would relate to one of the statements in her book. So whether it was a question she was asking, but she had all those statements memorized with the number, she told you the number, and that's how she communicated. I worked with another individual that had an eye gaze communication. So he had a laptop on his computer, and he was able, with his eyes, to gaze and spell out words and communicate that way. So really figuring out what works for the individuals you're working with. I worked with one kiddo that had an armband. So very similar to what you see quarterbacks have with the plays on it. He had an armband with different words, and that's how he would communicate. So he always had his communication board with him because it was right there. So just lots of different options, but making sure that we're not just communicating at people, we're giving them an opportunity to communicate back with us. So again, this was part one of our visual supports. We are going to have some time for questions next, but I did want to point out that next week we're going to talk about visual supports with older adults. And then in a couple weeks, we're going to talk about creating your own visuals. So really walking through how you find these different things, how you would create something, and go from there. So again, thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to answering any questions that you have.